The first few months looked like everything a woman could want. A beautiful home in Lekki. A husband who drove a car that turned heads. Dinner reservations at restaurants where the menu had no prices. Friends sent messages saying how lucky she was. Amara photographed every moment. The flowers, the meals, the carefully arranged mornings. She shared the pictures, and the world approved. And if something felt hollow behind the smiles, she told herself it was normal. That marriage always needed time to settle. That love would deepen on its own. She just needed to be patient. But patience could not hide what was slowly changing. The Kelvin who had pursued her with soft words and warm attention was retreating. Not loudly. Not with arguments, not yet. He just became quieter. The compliments stopped first. Then the questions about her day. Then the evenings spent together. He worked late and returned home to silence. He ate without conversation. He slept without reaching for her hand. To someone watching from outside, the house still looked full. But Amara was learning the painful truth that emptiness does not announce itself with noise. It arrives quietly and stays. Small arguments began appearing the way cracks appear in a wall, thin at first, easy to overlook, then wider, then impossible to ignore. He snapped when she asked a simple question. She withdrew when he dismissed her. He accused her of being too sensitive. She accused him of not caring enough. Some nights the house was tense before either of them had said a word. Amara started doing something she had not done since Lagos changed her. She lay awake at night turning things over in her mind, searching for the place where everything had gone wrong. It was during one of those quiet evenings that Amara reached for her old Bible. Not to read deeply, just to hold something familiar. But Kelvin walked in and saw it in her hands, and the look on his face was something she had not expected. It was not confusion. It was not indifference. It was irritation, sharp and immediate, the way someone looks when they see something they have been quietly tolerating but no longer wanna. He said nothing that night, but the expression remained in Amara's mind long after he walked away. Something was coming. She started noticing it everywhere. When she bowed her head before a meal, his jaw tightened. When a gospel song played from her phone, he changed the room. When she mentioned something from her father's church, Kelvin's voice went flat. "We don't need that here," he said once, and kept eating. She told herself he simply was not raised in faith, that she could not force what had never been planted. But deep inside, she was beginning to understand something she had avoided knowing. She had married a man with no room for the God she was raised to love. She tried to approach it gently. One Sunday morning she asked if he would consider attending church with her. Not every week, just once. Kelvin looked at her the way adults look at children who have said something sweet but incorrect. "I thought you had grown past all that," he said. Then he picked up his phone, and the conversation was over. Amara sat with those words long after he left the room. Grown past all that. As though everything she had been raised to believe was simply a stage of immaturity she should have already moved beyond. The argument that broke everything open started over something small, the way the worst arguments always do. A missed dinner. A sharp reply. Words that grew louder than intended. And then Kelvin said something that stopped all of it. Not because he shouted, but because he said it calmly, the way a person states a fact held too long. "I told you from the beginning. I don't want religion in this house." The room went still. Amara looked at him, and in that stillness, she heard something crack. Not in the room, but in herself. She did not cry that night. She sat on the edge of the bed after he slept and stared at the floor with dry eyes and a full chest. She tried to remember who she had been before Lagos. Before Chioma's question. Before Kelvin's voice made her feel chosen. She had been a girl who prayed without being asked, who sang without needing an audience, who knew peace not because everything was perfect, but because something inside her was settled. That girl felt far away now, like someone she had known, then slowly stopped calling until the line went quiet. The loneliness that followed was heavier than she expected. It was not the loneliness of being alone. She had known that in Lagos when she first arrived. This was something worse. It was the loneliness of being in the same room as someone and feeling completely unseen. Kelvin was present but absent. He provided but did not comfort. He occupied the house, but did not fill it. Friends who had celebrated the wedding photos had quietly disappeared once the marriage stopped producing happy stories. The expensive walls around her kept the world out and the silence in. One night, after Kelvin slept and the house settled into quiet, Amara sat on the floor of the bedroom with her back against the wall. Not because she chose to. Her legs had simply given out. She sat and let the silence press against her. And in that place, alone on the floor of a house that cost more than her family had ever owned, she did something she had not done honestly in over 2 years. She wept. Deeply. Without performance. The way a person weeps when they have finally stopped pretending everything is fine. And in that weeping, a memory arrived unbidden. Her mother, on her knees, in the gray light before sunrise. Her father at the kitchen table after dinner, speaking quietly about what he had read in scripture. Not performing, not preaching, just living inside their faith the way a person lives inside their own skin, naturally, without effort. That had been her home. The peace she once carried had not come from discipline alone. It came from something real. Sitting on that cold floor, Amara felt the distance between who she was and who she had been like a physical ache. She whispered into the silence the way a person speaks when they are not sure anyone is listening but cannot hold the words any longer. God, if you still want me, I don't know how to return. But I want to. That was all. No long prayer. No polished words. She sat in the quiet after and waited, unsure what she expected. Nothing dramatic happened. The room stayed the same. But something small and stubborn had shifted. The way morning light does not flood a room all at once, but simply begins to change the edges of the dark. She began reading her Bible in the mornings before Kelvin woke. Just a few verses. Quietly. She kept it in her bedside drawer, like something private. She prayed in the shower, where no one could hear, in short and honest sentences that sounded nothing like the polished prayers of her choir days. There was no performance left. Just a woman finding her way back to something she had set down carelessly and now held with both hands. Peace began returning. Not because the marriage improved, not because circumstances changed, but because something inside Amara had slowly started coming back to life. But the peace brought new tension. Because the closer she returned to God, the more clearly she could see the foundation of her marriage and what it was built on. Kelvin had not changed. He had simply been revealed. The man who once said she deserved to live for herself now quietly resented the very thing that was saving her. She could not serve 2 directions at once. She had returned to her faith, but her faith and her marriage now stood on opposite sides of something she could not yet name, though she felt its weight every morning. She knew what lay ahead would not be simple. Returning to God had cost her nothing as a girl in Oweri. It was simply the air she breathed. But returning as a married woman, inside a house that had no room for faith, inside a life she had built on her own terms, that would cost her something. She did not yet know what. But she was different now from the woman who had sat on that floor weeping. That woman had nothing left to hold. This one was holding something again. And she was not letting it go.